You know, we hear this word enlightenment all the time, but have you ever stopped to ask what the Buddha actually claimed to know? Like for real? Well, we're going to dive right into that because there's this ancient dialogue that gives us a super direct and honestly a kind of surprising answer that just cuts right through a 2,500-year-old rumor. So let's get right to it. What's the real story here? Did the Buddha walk around claiming he knew everything all at once, 24/7? The answer he gives in this text, well, it's probably not what you're expecting.
Okay, so picture this. We're in the ancient Indian city of Vaisali. The Buddha's in town, and he's visiting this well-known wanderer, a spiritual seeker named Vacchagoda. And Vacchagoda has heard some stuff, a rumor, and he wants to get these stories straight from the horse's mouth.
So Vacchagoda, he doesn't mess around. He just lays it all out there. He says, listen, I've heard that you, the ascetic Gautama, claim to be all-knowing and all-seeing, that this knowledge is just always on, whether you're walking, standing, sleeping, or awake. Then he asks point blank, so are the people saying this telling the truth, or are they misrepresenting you? And the Buddha's reply? It's about as direct as you can get. No wiggle room. He just says, Vacha, those who say that, they're not repeating my words, they are misrepresenting me with what is false and untrue. So boom, there it is. A complete and total denial. That rumor about him being constantly omniscient? Not true.
Naturally, Vacchagoda's next question is the one we're all thinking, right? Okay, so if that's wrong, how should we describe what you know? What's the right way to talk about it so we're not spreading misinformation? And this is where we get the real answer.
The Buddha doesn't give some vague philosophical answer. He gives a very specific term. He says the right way to put it is that he has the Tavijja, which literally means the three knowledges. So it's not this fuzzy know-everything power. It's three very distinct, very profound areas of insight.
So what are these three knowledges? They aren't just a random collection of cool psychic powers. They actually build on each other, and together they form the complete picture of liberation. Let's break them down one by one.
All right, so here's the roadmap. First, there's the knowledge of recollecting past lives in incredible detail. Second is what's called the divine eye, which is the ability to see how beings are reborn based on their actions. And the third, the grand finale, is the knowledge of how to completely end all the mental gunk, all the defilements, and be free right here, right now.
This first knowledge is just wow. It's staggering. We're not talking about a hazy memory or a feeling of déjà vu. The Buddha said that whenever he directed his mind to it, he could recall countless past lives across immense cosmic cycles, eons of the universe expanding and contracting. And not just vaguely, he remembered specific details. In that life, my name was this, I was from that clan, this is what I ate, this is the pleasure and pain I felt, and this is how I died. Just imagine that level of clarity.
The second knowledge is the divine eye. You can think of this as seeing the universe's operating system. It's the ability to see the law of karma in action. He could see beings dying and immediately being reborn, some into happy states, some into miserable ones, rich, poor, beautiful, ugly. And he understood exactly why. He could see the direct link between their actions in one life and their destination in the next.
And that brings us to the third and really the most important knowledge of all. This one isn't about looking outward at past lives or other beings. This is about looking inward. It's the direct, personal realization that ends all the mental poisons, the greed, the hatred, the delusion. It's achieving in this very life what he called an undefiled freedom of heart and freedom by wisdom. This is the one that leads to true liberation.
Okay, so the Buddha's made it super clear what he does know. And now Vacchagoda's curiosity shifts. He goes from these big cosmic questions to something intensely practical. He basically wants to know, okay, so for the rest of us, who actually makes it?
So he asks a couple of really sharp questions. First, can a regular person, a lay person with a job and a family, can they make a complete end of suffering? And second, if they can't go all the way, can they at least get to a good place, like a heavenly world after they die?
And the Buddha's answers are crystal clear. For the first question, he says no. A layperson who is still tied to the world can't make a total end of suffering. But for the second question, he says absolutely, yes. And not just a few.
He says he can recall many hundreds of his lay followers who were reborn in a heavenly world. Then Vacchagoda asks about this other group, these rival ascetics called the Ajivakas. And their whole deal was this kind of strict fatalism, the idea that your actions don't matter because everything is already predetermined. And the Buddha's answer about them? Well, it's what makes this whole conversation so unforgettable.
And this is where we get to the jaw-dropping conclusion of their chat. After Vacchagoda asks if any of these Ajivaka ascetics ever make it to a good destination, the Buddha gives an answer that spans an almost unimaginable amount of time.
The Buddha prefaces his answer by flexing that first knowledge we talked about. He says, Vacha, when I look back through the last 91 eons. Now, just to put that in perspective, a single eon is the time it takes for an entire universe to form, exist, and then dissolve. So we're talking about a mind-bogglingly vast stretch of cosmic history here.
So in 91 life cycles of the entire universe, across all that time, how many of these fatalist ascetics who believed their actions didn't matter did the Buddha recall making it to heaven? The answer he gives is one. Just one single person.
And here's the kicker. Why did that one guy make it? The Buddha explains it's because that particular ascetic had a change of heart. He came to believe in the efficacy of deeds and action. In other words, he ended up adopting the Buddha's core teaching on karma and rejected the fatalistic view of his own tradition. That was the only way out.
Vacchagoda immediately gets the devastating implication. He says, wow, in that case, that whole spiritual path is empty. It's empty even of the chance to go to heaven. And the Buddha just calmly replies, that is correct, Vacha. What a powerful, definitive statement about how much our views and actions really matter.
So this whole ancient conversation really leaves us with a fascinating question, doesn't it? The Buddha flat out rejects the flashy, impressive-sounding claim of being all-knowing. Instead, he claims a very specific, practical, and frankly, a much more useful knowledge, how karma works and how you can end your own suffering. Which really makes you think, what's actually more powerful? Claiming to know absolutely everything, or knowing the precise things that matter for finding freedom?